Hey, welcome back to Great American Movie Review. Once again, me, Mikiah here, talking about a new release film. I am joined by my wife, Hannah.
What's up?
Back again, we went to go see another one of the Oscar nominees. This time we saw Poor Things. All right, Poor Things is based on the 1992 novel by Alasdair Gray of the same name. And this is a film adaptation of that. I've never read that, so I'm not familiar with it, but generally speaking, this is a twist on the Frankenstein idea, and
Mm,
it definitely takes that and kind of runs in some completely different directions with it. It is a wild film,
mm.
and due to the nature of it, this is a great film to go in blind to in terms of like plot details. But we're going to talk more about some of the content, some of the filmmaking, and then in the second half of the video, we will go into some more of the plot details because I do think it's important for, getting our full understanding of what we think about the movie as a whole.
Yep.
But I'll put up a nice spoiler warning for that, so we'll get through just non plot detail related conversation before that.
No spoilies in the beginning.
No.
We'll warn you before the spoilies.
Yes. All right, so Poor Things is directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, who has been really making big waves in the last few years. I mean, he had films before The Lobster, but The Lobster is the one that really got his name kind of in the zeitgeist, and now he's followed that up with a few films. I loved The Lobster. I didn't see Killing of a Sacred Deer. I like The Favorite, but I didn't love it as much as everybody else seemed to. So I'm always excited by what he's doing, though, because he has such a unique vision for whatever he's putting on screen that I can't help but get excited for that kind of filmmaking. So I was super excited for this film. I was only hearing great things about it, and I went into it with high expectations. And I have to say, my expectations were met. I think this is a great film.
I personally don't know Yargos. How do you say his name? Did I say it right?
Basically, yeah.
Okay, well, I don't know him. I haven't seen his films. I had no expectations for this movie other than Emma Stone and Willem Dafoe and Mark Ruffalo. And I was like, hey, I know them. They're pretty good. Love them. I say pretty good very casually. They're fantastic. But I came in blind. I feel like I walked out blinded, but in a very positive way.
Yeah.
Also, with a lot to think about.
Yeah. Just right off the top, if you are unfamiliar, this is the kind of thing that I do think you should know going into the movie.
Mm,
The content of the film, it is very graphic. There is a lot of sex that is just a big important discussion that this movie's having in some way, and it is Yargos is a very European filmmaker, and his presentation of this stuff, it doesn't care about your sensibilities. It doesn't care what you feel about this. He is going to present this the way that he does.
yeah, you like full nudity.
Yeah, the cast is clearly all on board for this. I mean, Emma Stone was a producer on it as well as the star of it. So, and she's the central figure here. And yeah, but I think that the film is really terrific.
It is. Just be like forewarned. There is a lot of very explicit nudity sexual content.
Do not go see this with your parents, is what we're saying.
Or your kids. Don't bring
Or
your
your
kids to
kids.
this. So many adults bring kids to movies like, oh, this is gonna be fine, not realizing
The
if they.
spectrum of an R-rated film goes from something that has a few F-bombs in it to something like this.
Yeah.
It's a very big difference.
Don't bring your parents, don't bring your kids.
Go with your significant other if you have like a good, healthy relationship.
Yeah.
But yeah, the film, the way it tackles the Frankenstein idea, first of all, just I think that it's really suited for Yorgos Lanthimos's style. He continues to do things that I don't always love, like he uses fisheye lenses and stuff, but here it really elevates kind of the fantasy of the strangeness of the world, because it's our world, but it's definitely not our world. There's really unique production design here, really unique filmmaking choices, and it's going to put some people off. It's not going to be for everybody, but like I said, he doesn't really care clearly to make a film for everybody.
I also feel like the fisheye lens, I thought that was an interesting use of that because normally I don't really like that either, but I feel like it was a very specific perspective type of shot.
Yeah,
And then it widens as we get an understanding, and but that's my own
yeah.
thoughts. It's not fisheye the entire time.
No, no, no.
It's just
It's
very
used. Yeah,
specific.
it's selective. It's also black and white for a stretch,
Hmm.
and then when it's color, it's like full blown color and very unique color palettes and costume designs and settings, and it's very fantastical in its presentation, which is a stark contrast to the subject itself. Like the actual material is
Hmm.
pretty dark, but this is also a comedy. Like it is very funny in a very dark way.
Oh yeah, dark humor for sure.
Yeah, like I was cracking up a bunch. Some of it was just at some absurdist things that it was doing.
Hmm.
There's something with Willem Dafoe and a bubble. Every time it happened, I don't know, I just started cracking up.
I love that man.
You have a thing for Willem
I
Dafoe.
love Willem Dafoe. He's a great actor. He's super hot. Just unproblematic as far as I know.
Yeah, he's great here again. I mean, he's in a lot of makeup here, and I mean,
Hmm.
he's never been shy about having to be covered up in makeup. So, but he's great kind of as he's kind of the Dr. Frankenstein in this situation, and Bella Baxter is the Frankenstein's monster character here.
So then
So,
Rami
oh
is
yeah.
the Igor.
Yeah, so kind yeah, so Rami Youssef is in this, and he kind of plays this character. He ends up becoming kind of a protege to Willem Dafoe's character, who his name is Godwin, and he goes by God, which is just also really funny in
It's
the
very
movie.
funny.
There's a lot of funny lines revolving that, and even thematically, it's very interesting.
Hmm.
Um, and so you have, but yeah, you have Rami Youssef's character, and he kind of gets taken in as a protege to him, and he also to take care of this Bella Baxter character, and he also kind of falls in love with her too. There's a lot of conversations here around kind of around perspective and sex and sexuality. We'll get into that more in the
Hmm.
spoiler part of this when we're actually talking details. The other major character here is Mark Ruffalo's character, who Mark Ruffalo is tremendous in this film. His character is an awful person,
Oh
but he never
yeah.
presents himself as anything less than that. Like,
Yeah, this cast, honestly, the cast is freaking fantastic.
yeah, they're very committed.
They're extremely committed. There's this bold fearlessness. They're just all in.
Yeah,
They don't care what they look like. Like they are these characters. They are believable as these
yeah.
characters. It is so fantastic. I just was watching like, oh man, if only I was that good.
Yeah.
Like it's just they were so fantastic.
Yeah, I think that Emma Stone here might actually give the best performance out of anybody this year. Like
Yeah.
anybody. I feel pretty strongly about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something very specific and unique about this character she's playing, and I don't think that if whoever was acting in this, but specifically Emma Stone, if she was not as committed to this role, I think the movie would fall apart.
Yes, I agree. But yeah, I think that this is a great film. This is gonna kind of wrap up the general thoughts here before we move into spoilers. The cast is excellent. The filmmaking is unique, and
Hmm.
I think it's a really special film. It is a challenging film. Prepare to be challenged by it. And if you keep listening to the rest of this episode, you'll understand why we say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a really fantastic film. And if you are open to being challenged by a film and you are, understanding the content within it, then absolutely go seek this out. It's one of, if not the single most unique film that came out this last year, which had a number of unique films. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, that wraps up this just kind of spoiler free thoughts. But now this is your big red flashing spoiler warning.
Warning, warning, spoilers ahead.
Yes, we're going to talk about plot details here. And so just, yeah, be aware if you are continuing past this point, you have been well warned.
Spoilies.
It's for spoilies. Okay, so the general plot of this movie, to get right into it, is it's the Frankenstein story, except it's not at all, because this Willem Dafoe character, he is doing these experiments and he finds a corpse of a pregnant woman who killed herself. And so she still has enough life in her brain to, he could technically resurrect her, but he was thinking, why would I resurrect this woman if she was just going to kill herself? She hated her life so much she just killed herself. So instead what he does is he takes the brain of the baby that's within her and puts that in the adult woman's body. So this film is
Okay.
essentially about a baby in an adult's body learning the world in a different way. So the a fully developed body but without actual development, of having to go through learning, your body as a child and then growing into an adult. She is
Mm-hmm.
just an adult. Like he woke up into this earth as an adult.
Yeah, and I think they kind of cover that pretty well with her progression. Like
Yes.
in the beginning, he's like, she's progressing rapidly. She's still an infant at this stage. Like when Rami, I forget
Rami used that.
Rami.
I forget
I'm
his
sorry,
character's name.
Rami. You'll never listen to this, but I'm really bad with remembering names.
Well, his character's name was Max.
Max. That's right. So this character, Max, is essentially brought in by Willem Dafoe, and he's like, okay, I need you to watch her and mark her progress and everything like that. So it's interesting because Willem Dafoe's character, there's this whole conversation about science and creation and emotion
Right.
because Willem Dafoe's character, you get little bits and pieces of his relationship with his dad, who was also a scientist, and it is fucked. It's so fucked. And he's doing these experiments to try to understand his own dad, but later he regrets that he developed a paternal, like, nurturing feeling towards
Bella.
Bella,
Yeah.
and he's like, this is my mistake. I have too much emotion. We have to get another experiment. So it's like, or now we have to find another body. And so, like, so there's already this conversation happening about science and emotions and creation, like I said. And I could talk more about what are your thoughts?
Yeah, but then you get the whole like. So what happens is you keep getting her developing as the movie
Mm-hmm.
goes along, and then she gets to a point where her speech is good enough, and she also, okay, you don't enter the world being in a sexually developed state. That is something that happens during puberty, as we all know. So
Sure.
there is time that passes, and growth in childhood and youth, and she is just wakes up as an adult, but she still has those child instincts to like explore her body.
Yeah, and that is that. So there's this one scene specifically where she starts to do that with a fruit. And what's interesting is like in child development, that is normal to explore your body. But because she's in an adult body, she has an orgasm
Right.
and she wants more of that. So then in her like infant brain and her adult body, she then equates orgasms. I mean, she doesn't have the language for that yet,
Right.
but she equates that to happiness
Right. Because it feels good.
because it
So
feels good.
so she's like, why would I not do this if it feels good? She has like there's no shame that's developed over time. She's not been taught shame about it.
Hmm.
So she's just experiencing it as pleasure and
She
interpreting
even,
that pleasure as happiness.
yeah, she even, one of the like women that works there, I think she's like a maid or just like a house I don't know if she just cooks or something. But Bella, Emma Stone's character, looks at the woman. She's like, "Have you touched yourself? It's amazing." Like, very,
Right.
like, and you're sitting there and there's this discomfort in you that's like, you're an adult, but you're a kid. Like, your
Right.
brain is a kid right now. And that launches then into these other conversations with the Max character. And I don't remember Mark Ruffalo's character.
Um, it's Duncan.
Duncan.
Duncan Wedderburn.
Such an asshole name.
Yeah. So, because he comes in to the scene to basically confirm that Max and Bella are gonna get married.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like curious. He's there to oversee this contract that's being written between them because she's never to leave the house, basically, and Max is gonna live at that house too, Willem Dafoe's
Mm-hmm.
basically laboratory slash home that he's kept her in.
And, well, part of it is that Max, like, she keeps wanting to have sex with Max because she's like, this is awesome. And he's like, no.
Well, he doesn't even understand sex, or she doesn't even understand that sex.
No, she doesn't, but
Yeah.
she's like, I want you to touch me and I
Right,
want
right.
to touch your genitals. Um, and he's like, no, we're not married and you're not there yet. Like, he feels uncomfortable, but he's also in love with her, so that's interesting. Yeah, and then Mark Ruffalo's character comes in.
And he's like, I'll take you, sweep you off your feet, go on a vacation with you. I'll take you away from this place. And because I got to see who this woman is that has to be kept here, like who's so desirable that she can't be let to leave, basically. It's his motivation there.
And then he essentially assaults her because he touches her without her permission.
Yeah.
And her being
Not understanding any of
not
that.
understanding, young in her mind, and equates that with happiness, she's like, okay. So she literally goes to Willem Dafoe's character and she's like, I'm gonna go on this adventure because this guy is going to touch me.
Right, and then so reluctantly agrees, and that's where a lot of the movie then is this adventure where she's exploring the real world, and you get a lot of this perspective of these, basically child's eyes, exploring the world unburdened by childhood, in a weird way,
Mm-hmm.
but still having that kind of fish out of water aspect going on, learning the world, but it's also a fantastical reality. It's not quite our own.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, she's also learning the world from this garbage person that Mark Ruffalo's playing,
Yeah, but also other people,
but
and
also
she's
the other
learning
people
how
she
to read
meets.
now, and
Right.
she is developing and progressing, but she's still pretty
Yeah,
childlike
and he's
for a
trying
long
to
time.
control her.
Yeah, and so there's this like, there are these moments where she is becoming more of a woman and understanding herself as an individual person. And I think an important part of this conversation is how Mark Ruffalo starts to turn on her, like
Yeah.
how his character does. So it's like this very predatory, taking advantage. Now, he doesn't, okay, I think it's important to back up. He does not know that she has an infant
Yeah, he
brain.
doesn't know anything about this.
He has no idea. For all he knows, he just turned Max into a cuckold and like,
Took his lady on
took
a,
his
yeah.
lady, his fully adult, developed lady with a really interesting perspective of the world, very easily controlled, very open to having sex,
Right.
however and whenever he wants, however many times, whatever. And then as soon as she starts getting her own thoughts, he starts getting angry with her and disgusted with her. Not even her body, he's just so over her
Yeah.
having her own thoughts.
When she becomes more of an adult, she when she starts to mature, then
Mhm.
he doesn't want anything to do with her. Yeah, it's so interesting. It's very, like, those conversations are very complex, and I love that this movie takes this fantasy element and is able to explore these concepts through that. I think it's also important to know, at least from my perspective, I don't think the movie in its presentation of sex is designed, I can't to think of a better word for the right now, but it's not like designed to be titillating, you know?
Mm.
It's not like,
It's not designed to arouse you.
right. Like the scenes are presented very cold, very like usually from a distance, very still camera, just kind of watching it happen. It's almost like experiment and observation, a little bit animalistic
Mm-hmm.
almost, like in terms of the presentation of it. Like it's not trying to romanticize it in any way, it's just presenting it as she's doing this because she gets pleasure from it and she enjoys that, and she also has no shame because she's not been taught shame. So
Which
like
is another
another
conversation.
conversation.
There's so much shame surrounding sex and sexuality and, your body count or whatever. And this movie's like, she just enjoys it. She
Yeah,
wants to do it, and that's fine. And there's a point in her maturity as a woman where she tells him, like, yeah, I had sex with someone else because I wanted to. I don't belong to you. Like,
right.
like she's just very kind of
She
matter of
doesn't
fact.
understand ownership. She's never been taught that the way the world works in the
Mm-hmm.
messed up ways. So there's some purity in her character.
Mm.
At the same time, at least her mindset on the world, her outlook on even sex, it's very pure despite the fact that she's constantly having sex throughout the film. She even works at a whorehouse at some point.
Yeah, because
It's a whole,
she's like, I need money and I want to have sex. And then
this can provide me with both those
yeah,
things.
the owner of the brothel is like, well, come on in.
Yeah, so and then she experiences different aspects of sex in those that capacity.
And she has some like camaraderie with some of the women, one particular female that works there. And even in this part of her development, she starts getting almost frustrated because she's like, it wasn't even fun for me
Right,
anymore. Like, you see her get used as an object by multiple people at
right,
this point. And so that goes back to, Duncan's character having this power over her because she's young in her mind, and then she breaks free from that, and then she's free sexually and on her own, and then being treated like an object feels like shit.
right, right. And then that's not even getting into the whole final part of the movie where she goes back home and then has to confront the person that she was, or that her mother technically was married to, now that she inhabits the body of, and that person and is
And his
abusive,
control.
and kind of understanding why her mother would be in this position where she is at the beginning of the movie, which is dead from her
So
own
it's not her
hands.
daughter, her sister, it's her daughter herself.
To tie it into Chinatown, our upcoming episode this week, or past coming, depending on when this episode comes out of
Hmm.
of this review. Either way, yeah. So clearly, there's a lot to this movie. There's a
Hmm.
lot to discuss with it. That's why we felt like we had to go into it a little bit more in depth.
Yeah.
Really, like I said, the your sensibilities are going to matter to some extent here because of the presentation of everything.
Yeah, there were as an essay survivor, like there definitely were some moments that were triggering, but that's also why I feel so passionate about this discussion
Yeah,
because of what it says about even today how women are viewed and how people are viewed and how sex is viewed, and man, just the power imbalance and grooming and like all of this stuff is real and it happens. Now in this world it is completely fiction, like the world itself. But this is real shit that happens.
right.
There really are people who get used as objects, and there really are people who are predatory. And it, I think what's interesting is Emma Stone's character isn't afraid,
Yeah,
and I think there's that interesting purity and innocence and rapid development that almost gives her that power,
yeah,
where us who are normally developed, it's really easy to be afraid, and
right.
sometimes it protects us.
Yeah, yeah,
So
for sure.
there's this other element to it.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a lot. It's a lot. So
yeah,
just this is like another, like, this is just kind of a warning. Like, there's a lot of sex that might be triggering. There's this power imbalance which can also be triggering. It's also a really important fucking conversation.
Yeah. And you'll also be laughing throughout the movie at the same time because there's a lot of just absurd, funny stuff that happens in it. So,
Yeah. I laughed a lot in
yeah,
this
like,
movie.
it's very funny.
And then I was like, ew, fuck that guy. And then I
Right,
was
right.
like, oh my gosh, so much nudity.
Right. It's a whole lot of a film, but I think yeah, this is a I think a great film. It might be Yorgos Lanthimos' best. I haven't seen all of them, like I said at the beginning, but I do love The Lobster too. But this one's just the amount that this one's going to last in my mind, I think, it just kind of puts it in that spot. So, but yeah, I think any more thoughts before we wrap this up?
So many, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna
This
cut
is
it.
one of those that, you're going to have people have think pieces on this for many years to come, and you'll be able to watch as many of those as you want, but that's it for this review. Can't quite say mini review this one, but that does it for this review of Poor Things. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Hannah, for joining me.
Yeah, of course. I do have one final thought.
Oh, yeah.
Godspeed, Spider-Man.
And with that, I bid you adieu. We'll see you at the movies. Have a great